King's majestic brown horse leads a grand parade of hundreds of marching guards. From the narrow cobblestone streets to the wide open plazas, everyone seemed to move a little faster, talk a little louder, and smile a little brighter. Today was not just any ordinary day. It was the day of the Grand Royal Parade, an event that happened only once in many years and promised to be the most magnificent the kingdom had ever seen. Citizens, merchants, and travelers from nearby villages all gathered in anticipation, eager to witness the spectacle that the king himself had planned. The streets were soon lined with families, children perched on the shoulders of their parents, and elderly citizens leaning on their canes, all with eager eyes and hearts full of hope. The air smelled sweet with flowers that had been scattered along the main road, and colorful banners swayed gently in the morning breeze, catching the light in sparkling shades of gold, red, and blue. At the heart of all this preparation was the royal stables, a place that held a secret treasure of the kingdom. Among the horses there, one stood out like no other. He was a majestic brown horse named Valor. His coat gleamed in the sunlight as if polished by the hands of the heavens, and his mane flowed in soft waves that moved elegantly with every step he took. Valor was not just any horse. He had been trained from a young age to understand the language of his rider, to move with grace and strength, and to act with intelligence in moments that demanded quick thinking. Many people had tried to approach him over the years, but only the king himself, or those trusted with royal duties, could ride him with confidence. There was something in Valor's eyes that showed both loyalty and wisdom, as though he could see into the heart of anyone who stood before him. Inside the royal stables, the atmosphere was calm but charged with energy. The stable hands moved quietly, brushing the other horses and checking the harnesses and saddles, but their attention always seemed to drift back to Valor. They knew that today he would play the most important role in the parade, leading hundreds of marching guards down the city's main streets. For Valor, this was not a simple task of walking in front. It required precision, patience, and the ability to respond instantly to any sudden change in the crowd or in the guards' formation. But Valor had been prepared for this since he was a colt. Every morning, the king had spent hours riding him through the palace grounds, training him to respond to small signals, to keep his pace steady, and to remain calm even when chaos threatened to appear. Meanwhile, the marching guards were assembling in the large courtyard outside the palace. Hundreds of men and women in polished armor lined up in perfect rows, their helmets shining in the sunlight and their boots striking the ground in measured, synchronized steps. The sound of their movements echoed across the square, creating a rhythm that mixed with the faint melodies of trumpets and drums being tuned by the royal musicians. There was a sense of discipline and pride in every guard's posture, but beneath it, excitement buzzed like electricity. Today, they were not just performing for their king, they were participating in a historic moment, marching behind Valor, the horse that had become a symbol of strength and loyalty throughout the kingdom. As the morning advanced, the streets outside the palace filled with people. Children ran along the edges of the crowd, waving handmade flags and cheering loudly, while their parents tried to keep them safe and calm. Street vendors hurried to finish their preparations, selling fresh bread, sweet pastries, and colorful toys. Birds flew overhead, adding a gentle chorus to the growing symphony of human activity. The kingdom's citizens had waited for this day, and the energy was almost palpable. From the oldest elder who remembered parades from decades ago to the youngest child seeing such a spectacle for the first time, everyone felt the importance of the day. There was a sense that something magical was about to happen. Inside the palace, the king himself was ready. He dressed in robes that shimmered like sunlight, embroidered with gold threads that told the stories of his ancestors. His crown sat firmly on his head, a symbol not only of power, but of the responsibility he carried for the happiness and safety of his people. Today, however, his focus was not just on himself or the guards, it was on Valor, his magnificent horse. He had ridden Valor many times before, but today was different. Today, the horse would lead the parade, carrying the king with pride and grace through streets filled with thousands of cheering citizens. The king approached Valor calmly, speaking to him in soft tones that only the horse seemed to understand. Valor's ears twitched slightly, and he nuzzled the king's shoulder in acknowledgement, a silent promise that he was ready. Outside, the sound of drums and trumpets began to rise, signaling that the parade was about to start. The guards shifted into formation, their armor clinking softly as they took their positions. Valor stood at the front, muscles rippling beneath his shiny brown coat. The crowd held its breath as the king adjusted his posture in the saddle, looking straight ahead. There was a sense of anticipation that seemed to suspend time for a few moments. Then, with the first beat of the drums, Valor lifted his hooves gracefully, stepping forward with confidence. The sound of his hooves striking the cobblestones was steady and commanding, a rhythm that everyone in the crowd immediately recognized as the heartbeat of the parade. As Valor led the guards down the main street, the people cheered louder, waving flags and throwing flower petals into the air. The horse's mane shone in the sunlight, flowing like a banner that announced the beginning of something extraordinary. Children pointed excitedly, trying to catch a closer glimpse, while adults smiled with admiration at the skill and beauty of both the horse and the disciplined guards behind him. There was a sense of harmony in the scene, a feeling that every detail, from the banners fluttering in the wind to the polished armor of the guards, was part of a carefully orchestrated celebration of the kingdom's pride and history. For Valor, the parade was more than just a show of strength. He moved with awareness, keeping a steady pace while ensuring the guards could march safely behind him. Every so often, he would glance toward the king, waiting for subtle cues, and the king would respond with a gentle nod or shift of weight, guiding him effortlessly through the streets. Together, they created a partnership that inspired not only the citizens watching but also the guards following behind. There was an unspoken trust between the horse and the king, a bond built over years of training, care, and mutual respect. As the parade continued, the streets became even more crowded. People had traveled from neighboring towns just to see this spectacle. They came in wagons, on horseback, and even on foot, bringing with them banners and songs of celebration. The energy was infectious. Every cheer from the crowd seemed to lift Valor's spirits, and he pranced forward with even more pride, his hooves striking the ground in perfect rhythm with the music. The guards maintained their formation flawlessly, marching in time, their armor reflecting the morning light, creating a dazzling display that no one would soon forget. By the time the parade reached the central plaza, the grandeur of the event was fully visible. The plaza was decorated with golden arches, hanging lanterns, and elaborate statues of past kings and queens. From this vantage point, it was clear that the parade was not just a display of military discipline, but a celebration of unity, culture, and tradition. Valor led the way, his presence commanding respect and admiration. People from all walks of life cheered, clapped, and waved, some even wiping tears from their eyes in awe of the majestic sight. Even amidst the excitement, there was a sense of calm around Valor. Despite the noise, the crowds, and the hundreds of guards behind him, he moved with purpose, aware of every step, every sound, and every motion around him. His presence was a reminder to everyone that true strength is not just in appearance, but in the ability to lead with grace, courage, and confidence. The king felt this as well, knowing that his choice to have Valor lead the parade was more than symbolic. It was a testament to the bond between a ruler and a creature capable of extraordinary loyalty and intelligence. By the end of the morning, the parade had already left an impression that would last for years. The citizens spoke of Valor not just as a horse, but as a hero of the kingdom. Children drew pictures of him, merchants recounted tales of the parade to their customers, and guards felt pride in marching behind such a magnificent creature. For the king, the parade had begun exactly as he had hoped, with joy, admiration, and a sense of unity filling every heart. And at the center of it all, leading the way with unmatched grace and strength, was Valor, the majestic brown horse who had become the symbol of a kingdom's pride and spirit. The moment Valor's hooves touched the cobblestones at the start of the main parade route, the city seemed to come alive in a way that no one had ever seen before. The steady rhythm of his steps became the heartbeat of the kingdom, and the guards behind him marched with precise synchronization, their armor catching the sunlight and reflecting it like thousands of tiny stars moving in unison. Every eye in the crowd followed Valor, the king, and the guards as they began their journey through the streets, moving toward the central square where the festival of the parade would reach its grand climax. Children squealed with delight as they tried to mimic the drumbeats with their hands or small sticks, while parents lifted them higher onto their shoulders so they could see over the heads of other spectators. The streets, which had seemed wide and spacious just moments before, now overflowed with cheering citizens waving flags and throwing petals of flowers into the air. The fragrance of roses, jasmine, and marigolds mixed with the earthy smell of cobblestones warmed by the morning sun. Even the animals in the city seemed to feel the excitement. Birds flew overhead in graceful formations, chirping melodies that blended naturally with the music of trumpets and drums. The royal musicians played their instruments with skill and enthusiasm, their music filling the air like a wave of energy that swept through the crowd. Trumpets blared in triumphant tones, flutes carried soft, sweet melodies, and drums pounded a rhythm that matched the steady cadence of Valor's hooves. Each beat and note seemed to synchronize perfectly with the movements of the marching guards, creating a spectacle that was both grand and harmonious. The king sat tall and composed on Valor's back, his eyes scanning the crowd with pride, occasionally nodding to the people who bowed or waved respectfully. He knew that the parade was more than just a display of power. It was a celebration of unity, culture, and the shared spirit of the kingdom. As the parade moved forward, the citizens along the route could see the true scale of the event. Hundreds of guards marched in perfect formation behind Valor, their swords gleaming and their shields aligned like polished mirrors. Each movement was deliberate, disciplined, and precise. It was as if the entire kingdom had come together to create a living artwork, a moving testament to the strength and beauty of the monarchy and its people. Spectators whispered to one another in awe, some pointing at the guards and discussing how they had trained for years to perfect such synchronized movements. Others admired Valor, marveling at his calm demeanor, strength, and majestic presence. Despite the size of the crowd and the noise that surrounded him, Valor remained composed. His training had prepared him for this day, and his experience allowed him to stay calm even when children darted close to the parade route or when a sudden shout came from the crowd. He moved with intelligence and awareness, subtly adjusting his pace and position so that the guards behind him could march without obstruction. Occasionally, the king would gently shift in the saddle, giving Valor the smallest of cues, and the horse would respond immediately, a seamless display of understanding between man and animal. The citizens watching were captivated, not only by the grandeur of the parade, but also by the extraordinary connection between the king and his horse. Street vendors took advantage of the event, setting up small stands along the sides of the roads. They sold colorful toys, fragrant flowers, and sweet treats, adding another layer of excitement to the scene. Children tugged at their parents' hands, begging for pastries or small flags to wave in the parade. The vendors called out cheerfully, their voices mingling with the music, creating an atmosphere that was festive and alive. Even the city's fountains seemed to participate, their waters catching the sunlight and sparkling like diamonds, enhancing the magic of the morning. As Valor and the guards advanced further into the city, the parade's scale became more impressive. The narrow streets opened into wider avenues, allowing the crowd to spread out and see the event from multiple angles. Children perched on balconies and rooftops to get a better view, waving eagerly at the horse and the guards. Citizens along the streets raised their hands in admiration, and many began singing songs that had been passed down through generations, songs of loyalty, bravery, and pride in the kingdom. Valor responded with small, graceful movements, almost as if he understood the music and was dancing to it in his own way. The guards behind him maintained their precision, stepping in time with one another and with the rhythm of the drums. Each movement was rehearsed, practiced countless times, but it was the presence of Valor and the king that gave the entire formation a sense of purpose and pride. Spectators could see the discipline in every step, the confidence in every movement, and the harmony that only comes when individuals act as one. The parade was not just a display of power, it was a celebration of teamwork, trust, and dedication. As the procession turned toward the city's Grand Plaza, where a massive stage had been prepared for the final part of the celebration, an even greater sense of anticipation filled the air. The plaza was adorned with golden arches, decorative lanterns, and banners depicting past kings and queens. Children ran ahead to get a closer look, their laughter ringing through the streets like joyful bells. Elderly citizens leaned on their canes, eyes wide with amazement as they remembered parades from their youth, now witnessing one even grander. Everyone felt that they were part of something historic, a moment that would be remembered and told for generations. The music swelled as the parade approached the plaza. Valor's hooves echoed with authority, each step commanding attention, guiding the guards forward and captivating the crowd. The king maintained a calm and noble posture, radiating confidence and pride. He waved occasionally to the crowd, acknowledging their excitement and admiration. The citizens responded with cheers so loud they seemed to shake the very ground. From the smallest child to the oldest elder, everyone was fully immersed in the magic of the moment. The parade was not without its small surprises. A group of performers dressed in colorful costumes had joined the procession, dancing and twirling to the music, their movements perfectly timed with the guards' march. Jugglers tossed flaming torches into the air, and acrobats leaped and somersaulted, adding elements of wonder and thrill to the already mesmerizing scene. The crowd gasped and applauded, their eyes following every movement with awe. Valor, undisturbed by the performances around him, continued to lead with poise, demonstrating not only physical strength, but a remarkable calmness that inspired everyone who saw him. As the parade neared the center of the plaza, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden glow over the entire scene. The banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, the guards' armor sparkled, and Valor's brown coat seemed to glow with an almost magical brilliance. Children waved their flags harder, trying to catch the sunlight, while the adults clapped and cheered with renewed energy. The music reached a crescendo, filling the city with sound and rhythm that resonated in every heart. It was a moment of unity, joy, and all that could not be replicated in any other way. In the midst of all this celebration, a quiet moment of connection occurred between the king and Valor. The king gently patted Valor's neck, a gesture that spoke volumes of trust, respect, and friendship. The horse responded with a slight nudge, as if to say that he understood his role perfectly and was ready to continue leading the parade to its grand conclusion. This silent exchange, almost unnoticed by the crowd, was a testament to the deep bond they shared, a bond built on years of training, patience, and mutual respect. It was a reminder that leadership, courage, and grace often come from trust and understanding between companions, whether human or animal. The guards followed Valor's lead without hesitation, maintaining perfect synchronization, their faces showing focus and pride. The crowd continued to cheer, some even shedding tears of joy at the sight of such harmony, beauty, and strength. The streets seemed to vibrate with energy, echoing with the sound of hooves, drums, and trumpets. Every citizen, from the front row to those standing far back, felt a connection to the parade, as if they were part of a larger story being told right before their eyes. By the time the parade reached the steps of the central stage, the energy of the city had reached its peak. Citizens clapped, cheered, and shouted in excitement, expressing their admiration for Valor, the king, and the marching guards. The music slowed slightly, allowing for a moment of pause and reflection, giving everyone a chance to appreciate the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Valor stood proudly, head held high, as if acknowledging the cheers and admiration of the crowd. His presence commanded respect and inspired awe, proving that he was not just a horse but a symbol of the kingdom's strength, grace, and unity. As the king dismounted at the plaza, the crowd erupted in applause once more. He spoke briefly, thanking the citizens for their support and participation, while Valor remained calm beside him, the embodiment of loyalty and courage. This parade had been more than a simple display of power. It was a celebration of tradition, teamwork, and the extraordinary connection between humans and animals. For the citizens, the memory of this day would remain vivid forever. The sight of Valor leading the guards, the sound of drums and trumpets, the cheers of the crowd, and the feeling of being part of something truly magnificent. The parade had reached the heart of the city, and the crowd's excitement had grown to a level that seemed almost electric. Valor, the majestic brown horse, continued to lead the guards with calm determination, his hooves striking the cobblestones in perfect rhythm with the music. The king sat tall on his saddle, smiling and waving to the cheering citizens. Children laughed and clapped, merchants shouted greetings, and even the city's birds seemed to hover over the festivities, adding to the beauty of the day. Everything appeared perfect, a flawless display of discipline, tradition, and pride. But even in moments of great joy, the unexpected can happen. In the midst of the parade, a sudden commotion erupted on one side of the street. A large wagon, filled with barrels and pulled by two strong horses, had broken loose from its driver. The driver had lost control, and the wagon was now careening toward the parade route at a dangerous speed. The noise of shouting people and the clatter of the wheels against the cobblestones created instant chaos. Citizens screamed and tried to move out of the way, while the guards instinctively shifted to maintain their formation. Some spectators froze in fear, unsure of what would happen next. Valor sensed the sudden tension immediately. His ears twitched, his eyes focused sharply on the approaching danger. The horse stopped for a brief moment, assessing the situation, then began to move with incredible precision. The king, trusting Valor completely, leaned slightly forward, guiding him with subtle cues that only the horse could understand. Valor moved calmly yet swiftly, positioning himself between the runaway wagon and the marching guards. His hooves struck the ground firmly, and his presence alone seemed to command attention and respect. Citizens watched in amazement as Valor's instincts and training took over. The guards behind Valor maintained their discipline, but the danger required their focus to sharpen even further. Each guard adjusted his or her steps, ready to react to the wagon if it changed direction. The musicians continued to play, though their notes grew sharper and more urgent, reflecting the sudden tension in the air. The crowd, realizing what was happening, gasped collectively. Children were lifted higher by their parents, and some adults stepped forward instinctively, ready to help if needed. Amid the chaos, Valor remained composed, moving with confidence and purpose. The wagon drew closer, and the driver shouted frantically, trying to regain control, but it was clear that help was needed immediately. Valor, guided by his instincts and the gentle signals from the king, moved directly in the path of the wagon. The horse did not panic. Instead, he used his strength and agility to guide the wagon toward a safer area. With careful steps and subtle movements, Valor nudged the wagon away from the guards and citizens, steering it toward an empty side street where no one would be harmed. The crowd watched in awe, unable to believe the intelligence and courage displayed by the magnificent horse. The king remained calm, patting Valor's neck in reassurance. He knew that this moment, more than any other in the parade, demonstrated the bond between a rider and his horse. Valor responded with small, precise movements, his muscles tense but controlled, his eyes alert and aware. Every step was calculated, every turn exact, ensuring that the runaway wagon would not cause injury or damage. The guards followed Valor's lead, adjusting their formation as needed to maintain safety and order. The crowd began to cheer as they realized what was happening. What could have been a disaster had been prevented by Valor's quick thinking and bravery. Citizens clapped, shouted, and waved their hands in admiration, many of them moved to tears by the heroism of the horse. Children pointed excitedly, telling their parents that they had just witnessed a true miracle. Street vendors paused their sales, watching the scene unfold, and even the city's musicians seemed to play with renewed energy, as if celebrating Valor's courage. Once the wagon was safely redirected, Valor returned to the front of the parade, leading the guards with the same grace and authority as before. The king smiled broadly, proud of his horse and confident in the loyalty and skill of his guards. The citizens continued to cheer, now not only for the parade, but for the bravery and intelligence of Valor, who had proven himself more than just a majestic horse. He was a hero. The parade continued, now with an added sense of excitement and admiration. Spectators whispered among themselves about what had just happened, praising Valor for his quick thinking. Children imagined themselves riding a horse like Valor, dreaming of courage and bravery that matched the horse's own. The guards marched on, their confidence boosted by the knowledge that they were part of something extraordinary. Even the musicians seemed to play with extra enthusiasm, their instruments echoing the triumph of the moment. As the parade moved forward, other surprises unfolded that tested the discipline and coordination of everyone involved. Street performers joined in, dancing and juggling in perfect rhythm with the music. Acrobats leaped and twirled, adding drama and excitement to the scene. Citizens clapped, laughed, and cheered, fully immersed in the spectacle. Throughout it all, Valor remained calm and focused, his presence commanding attention and respect. He guided the guards expertly, ensuring that the parade maintained its rhythm and order despite the excitement and unexpected challenges. The king, proud and composed, occasionally glanced down at Valor, patting him gently and offering words of encouragement. He knew that the horse had saved the parade from what could have been a dangerous situation, and he trusted Valor completely to continue leading with precision and grace. Their partnership, built over years of training and mutual respect, was on full display for the citizens to witness. It was a living example of courage, intelligence, and loyalty. As the parade approached the central plaza once again, the crowd's energy reached its peak. People pressed closer to get a better view, waving flags and shouting praises. Children climbed onto benches, trees, and balconies, eager to see Valor and the guards. Street vendors offered refreshments to keep up with the cheering crowd, while musicians played their instruments with passion and skill. The plaza, decorated with golden arches, flowers, and banners, awaited the grand finale of the parade. Every citizen present felt that they were witnessing a historic moment that would be remembered for generations. Suddenly, a small group of curious onlookers approached the parade route too closely, causing a minor distraction. Valor, always aware, adjusted his steps slightly to guide the guards safely past the crowd without causing panic. His movements were smooth and confident, ensuring that the parade's rhythm remained intact. The king leaned forward slightly, giving Valor a subtle signal, and the horse responded immediately. The crowd noticed the skill and intelligence displayed, and their admiration for Valor grew even more. By the time the parade reached the central stage, the citizens were cheering louder than ever. Valor stood tall at the front, head held high, as the king dismounted gracefully. The crowd erupted in applause, some shouting praises for the horse, others for the king, and many for both. Children waved their handmade flags and shouted their excitement, while adults clapped and smiled in admiration. The parade had not only survived unexpected challenges, but had become even more spectacular because of them. The king addressed the citizens briefly, praising Valor for his bravery and the guards for their discipline. The horse remained calm beside him, a symbol of courage, loyalty, and intelligence. Citizens marveled at the sight, realizing that the parade had become more than just a display of power. It had become a story of heroism, trust, and unity. Children whispered to each other about the bravery of Valor, promising themselves that they would one day be just as courageous and disciplined. As the celebration continued, Valor moved gracefully among the guards, occasionally nudging a child who had gotten too close or responding to a subtle command from the king. His presence was a reminder that true strength and leadership come from calmness, intelligence, and trust. The citizens, now fully aware of the horse's heroism, cheered even louder, creating an atmosphere of joy, pride, and admiration that seemed to fill the entire city. Even after the parade reached its conclusion in the plaza, the story of Valor's bravery spread rapidly. Street performers, vendors, and musicians all recounted the moment when the horse had prevented what could have been a disaster. Children told their friends, parents told their families, and soon the tale of Valor's courage became a favorite story across the kingdom. Citizens celebrated not only the grandeur of the parade, but also the intelligence and bravery that had saved it from harm. By the end of the day, Valor had become a hero in every sense of the word. His calm demeanor, intelligence, and courage had turned what could have been a disastrous event into a moment of triumph. The king, proud and grateful, made sure that the horse received recognition not only from the guards and citizens, but from the entire kingdom. Valor's legend was now firmly established, and his role in the parade would be remembered as one of the most extraordinary moments in the city's history. The city square was alive with energy as the parade finally reached its grand conclusion. Citizens from every corner of the kingdom had gathered, their eyes wide with excitement and their hearts filled with admiration for the display they had just witnessed. Valor, the majestic brown horse, stood at the forefront, his head held high and his chest proud, as if he understood the importance of this moment. The king dismounted gracefully, patting Valor's neck and whispering words of praise, which the horse seemed to understand perfectly. There was a feeling in the air, a magical mix of triumph, joy, and relief, as the citizens realized that they had witnessed not just a parade, but a story of courage and unity. Street performers danced and twirled, their costumes shimmering in the sunlight, while acrobats leapt through the air, performing daring flips and somersaults. The music swelled to a crescendo, with trumpets, drums, and flutes filling every corner of the square with jubilant sound. Children ran through the streets, waving flags and laughing, their faces painted with bright colors and glitter. Parents lifted them onto their shoulders so they could see better, while elders smiled, recalling parades from their youth and marveling at how spectacular this one had become. Every sense was alive with the celebration, the sights, sounds, and smells combining to create a memory that would last a lifetime. The king stepped forward to address the crowd, his voice carrying clearly over the noise of celebration. He praised Valor for his bravery during the parade, reminding everyone that it was the horse's intelligence, courage, and calm demeanor that had prevented a potential disaster earlier in the morning. The citizens erupted into applause and cheers, their admiration for the majestic brown horse reaching new heights. Children clapped their hands so loudly that some fell over in laughter, while adults clapped with pride, recognizing the remarkable bond between the king and his loyal companion. Valor stood quietly, his eyes scanning the crowd with gentle awareness, accepting the praise without arrogance, a true symbol of grace and dignity. As the king continued speaking, he acknowledged the hundreds of guards who had marched behind Valor, emphasizing their discipline, loyalty, and dedication. The guards, standing tall in their polished armor, nodded respectfully, their faces proud and determined. They had not only performed a perfect parade, but had followed Valor's lead through moments of unexpected challenge with unwavering focus. The citizens cheered for them as well, recognizing that their strength and coordination were as essential to the parade's success as Valor's intelligence and bravery. The celebration did not stop there. Street vendors set up stalls offering delicious treats, from sweet pastries to fresh fruit and spiced drinks. Children ran excitedly from stall to stall, trying to taste every treat while waving flags and singing songs they had learned for the parade. Musicians played lively tunes, encouraging the citizens to dance and move along with the rhythm. Even the city's fountains seemed to sparkle more brightly, their waters catching the sunlight and reflecting the joy that filled the square. Valor, standing calmly beside the king, watched the festivities with gentle patience, occasionally shifting his weight or lifting a hoof to respond to subtle signals from his rider. Parents used this moment to teach their children about bravery and responsibility, telling them stories of Valor's heroism and the importance of teamwork and discipline. "Look at him," one father said, pointing to Valor. "He stayed calm when everyone else was panicking." "That's true courage." Children nodded eagerly, their eyes wide as they imagined themselves performing such acts of bravery one day. Everywhere you looked, people were sharing the story of Valor's quick thinking during the runaway wagon incident, and how it had turned what could have been a disaster into a moment of triumph. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the parade's central stage became the focal point of the celebration. The king invited performers, guards, and citizens to gather around. Dancers moved in intricate patterns, jugglers tossed balls high into the air, and musicians played harmonious tunes that filled the square with a feeling of unity and joy. The citizens joined in, clapping, singing, and cheering, creating an energy so vibrant that it seemed to pulse through the streets. Valor remained at the front, calm and dignified, as the symbol of the kingdom's pride and resilience. At one point, a small group of children approached Valor cautiously, hoping to touch the legendary horse. The king allowed it, smiling as Valor gently lowered his head, permitting the children to stroke his sleek brown coat. The children's faces lit up with wonder and excitement, and the crowd cheered at the sight, witnessing the gentle side of a creature that had also demonstrated immense bravery earlier. Valor's calmness around the children only added to the awe he inspired, showing that true strength includes both courage and kindness. Meanwhile, the guards formed a circle around the plaza, maintaining order and ensuring that the celebration remained safe and joyful. Their discipline and attention to detail allowed citizens to fully enjoy the festivities without worry. Even as people danced, sang, and ran through the square, the guards remained vigilant, a reminder that safety and celebration can coexist when trust and coordination are present. Valor, positioned at the center of the celebration with the king nearby, commanded respect without needing to act. His mere presence inspired calm, admiration, and joy simultaneously. The music slowed for a brief moment, allowing everyone to take a collective breath and reflect on the morning's events. The king raised his hand, calling for silence, and addressed the citizens with words of gratitude. He spoke of the courage, loyalty, and unity that had made the parade successful. He highlighted valor's bravery and the guards' discipline, praising the citizens themselves for their participation and enthusiasm. Every word was met with applause, cheers, and smiles, reinforcing the shared sense of pride and joy. As the celebration continued into the afternoon, more people joined the festivities. Travelers who had come from distant towns added their voices to the songs and cheers. Families who had never seen such a spectacle before were thrilled to witness the grand parade and its conclusion. The city felt alive in a way it rarely did, every corner echoing with laughter, music, and excitement. Valor, always aware, shifted slightly to maintain a clear path for the king and guards, demonstrating the intelligence and discipline that had earned him the admiration of an entire kingdom. The king then invited the citizens to participate in the final moment of the celebration, a ceremonial walk around the plaza with Valor leading the way once again. Children followed behind, waving flags and laughing. Adults joined in, holding hands and moving in rhythm with the music. The guards maintained their formation, marching proudly and confidently, ensuring that the ceremonial walk remained orderly and impressive. Valor moved with elegance and purpose, guiding the entire group in a procession that symbolized unity, courage, and celebration. As the ceremonial walk concluded, the king dismounted once more and stood beside Valor. He spoke directly to the citizens about the importance of bravery, kindness, and loyalty. He told them that Valor's actions were a lesson not just for soldiers or rulers, but for every person in the kingdom. Courage was not only about facing danger, but also about acting with intelligence, calmness, and care for others. Loyalty was not simply obedience, but a bond built on trust, understanding, and respect. The citizens listened attentively, many nodding in agreement, and the children clutched the hands of their parents, absorbing the lesson in awe and wonder. Finally, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold, pink, and orange, the celebration reached its quiet conclusion. Valor stood tall and proud, his brown coat glowing in the fading light, as if reflecting the happiness and pride of everyone in the square. The king patted his neck one last time, expressing gratitude and admiration for the horse that had led the parade, prevented disaster, and inspired an entire kingdom. Citizens slowly began to make their way home, still talking excitedly about what they had witnessed, while children held onto memories that would remain vivid in their minds for years to come. Even after the crowd dispersed, stories of Valor's bravery continued to circulate throughout the kingdom. People spoke of the horse's intelligence, calmness, and courage, sharing tales of the runaway wagon incident and the spectacular parade. Children drew pictures of Valor, guards proudly displayed their medals and achievements, and citizens discussed the importance of courage, discipline, and unity in their daily lives. Valor had become more than just a royal horse. He had become a legend, a symbol of the kingdom's values and spirit. That evening, as the city quieted and the lights of the plaza twinkled like stars, Valor returned to the royal stables, calm and composed. The king followed, ensuring that his loyal companion was cared for and comfortable. The citizens slept that night dreaming of the parade, the bravery of the horse, and the joy of the celebration. For days, weeks, and even years, the story of Valor leading the grand parade, guiding the guards, and inspiring the kingdom would be told and retold. A tale of courage, loyalty, and unity that would live forever in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed it. The parade had not only been a display of tradition and grandeur, but also a reminder of what could be achieved when trust, discipline, and courage worked together. Valor had led the kingdom through triumph, challenge, and celebration, showing that true greatness comes not just from strength, but from intelligence, calmness, and heart. The citizens would remember this day for the rest of their lives, inspired by a majestic brown horse who had become a hero, a legend, and a symbol of everything that made their kingdom proud.